Lady Zarathel adjusted the crystalline collar of her ceremonial robes as she walked through the marble corridors of the celestial palace. Her silver skin caught the light from the floating luminescence orbs, creating an almost ethereal glow around her tall, elegant frame. As a member of the ruling Etherian nobility, she commanded respect from every being in the galaxy's most powerful empire. Yet today, her mind was not on politics or protocol. Today marked the 3rd anniversary of her partnership with Commander Marcus Chun, a human from the frontier world of Terra Nova. Their union had shocked the Etherian High Council and caused whispers throughout the noble houses. No Etherian of her standing had ever bonded with a mortal species, let alone one as short-lived and primitive as humanity. But Marcus had proven himself exceptional from their first meeting at the diplomatic summit on Nexus Station. While other ambassadors had cowered before the Etherian delegation's psychic presence, Marcus had stood firm, his mind somehow naturally shielded against their mental probes. More importantly, he had looked directly into her violet eyes without fear or calculation, seeing her as Zara rather than Lady Zarathel, heir to the 12th house of luminance. The great doors to her private chambers slid open at her approach. Inside, Marcus stood on the observation balcony, his back to her as he gazed out at the twin suns setting over the capital city of Lemethus. Even from behind, she could appreciate the way his human form moved with surprising grace for such a compact species. His dark hair had grown longer since their bonding ceremony, something she had grown fond of running her fingers through during their quiet moments together. The council meeting ran longer than expected, she said, her voice carrying the melodic quality that all Etherians possessed. The trade negotiations with the Kytherian Empire have become quite complex. Marcus turned to face her, his warm brown eyes lighting up as they always did when he saw her. Any progress? Some. Though I suspect the real breakthrough will come tomorrow when you present your proposal for the human cargo fleet modifications. She moved to stand beside him on the balcony, her hand finding his with practiced ease. The council members are still skeptical about human engineering capabilities, but your previous successes have given you credibility. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. 3 years ago, I never imagined I'd be advising a galactic empire on fleet logistics. Back on Terra Nova, I was just another cargo pilot trying to make enough credits to keep my ship running. Zara smiled, remembering their early conversations about his humble beginnings. It was one of the things that had drawn her to him initially. Unlike the ambitious nobles and calculating diplomats who usually sought her attention, Marcus had no hidden agenda. He approached every challenge with honest determination and an innovative mind that had repeatedly impressed even the most traditional council members. Your transport efficiency improvements saved the Empire 14 billion credits last quarter alone, she reminded him. The council may question your methods, but they cannot argue with your results. They stood in comfortable silence for several minutes, watching as the city's bioluminescent towers began to pulse with their evening rhythms. Below them, streams of hover traffic moved between the massive spires like glowing rivers. The sight never failed to amaze Marcus, who had grown up on a frontier world where the largest settlement barely qualified as a town by Etherian standards. Zara, Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying an unusual tension. There's something I need to tell you about tomorrow's presentation. She looked at him with mild curiosity. What about it? The cargo modifications I'm proposing aren't entirely based on human engineering principles. He paused, his jaw tightening slightly. I've been incorporating some techniques that I learned during my time in the Outer Rim territories. This was news to her. Marcus rarely spoke about his years before joining the diplomatic corps, claiming they were simply spent running cargo between frontier worlds. What kind of techniques? Advanced power distribution systems, enhanced shielding configurations, things that most human engineers wouldn't think to try. He released her hand and moved to lean against the balcony railing. The truth is, I had some unconventional teachers during those years. Zara felt a slight stirring of unease. In their 3 years together, Marcus had always been forthcoming about his past, his family on Terra Nova, his early struggles as an independent pilot. This was the first time he had mentioned learning advanced engineering from unknown sources. "What teachers?" she asked, her noble training keeping her voice neutral despite her growing curiosity. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the city below. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. "I spent 2 years working in the Sigma Draconis system. There were some Kytherian engineers there, refugees from the border conflicts. They taught me techniques that their people had developed over centuries." The explanation made sense, and Zara felt her momentary concern ease. The Kytherian Empire was known for their advanced technology, particularly in spacecraft design. It would explain how Marcus had been able to propose modifications that surpassed even Etherian engineering standards. "That's actually quite fascinating," she said. "No wonder your proposals have been so innovative. Kytherian engineering principles are still largely unknown to our technical teams." "Yes, well, they made me promise not to share the source of my knowledge. Cultural pride, you understand. They didn't want it known that they had taught their secrets to a human." Marcus turned back to face her, his expression relaxing into a smile. "I probably shouldn't have told you even this much, but I wanted you to know before tomorrow's presentation causes another stir in the council chambers." Zara moved closer to him, placing her hand on his chest. Through their bond, she could sense his emotions as she always could with sustained contact. She felt his love for her, his nervous excitement about tomorrow's presentation, and, underneath it all, a deep contentment that mirrored her own feelings. "Your secrets are safe with me," she said, "though I must admit, it explains a great deal about your capabilities." The council members have been wondering how a frontier cargo pilot developed such sophisticated understanding of advanced engineering principles. "Just lucky, I suppose." Marcus pulled her close, his arms encircling her waist. "Lucky in many ways. 3 years ago, I was nobody special. Now I'm partnered with the most beautiful and intelligent woman in the galaxy, advising the Etherian High Council, and living in a palace that still makes me feel like I'm dreaming." Zara leaned into his embrace, enjoying the warmth of his body against hers. This was one of the unexpected pleasures of bonding with a human. Etherians were naturally cool to the touch, but Marcus radiated a comforting heat that she had grown addicted to during their quiet moments together. "You were always special," she murmured against his shoulder. "I saw it the moment we met. That confidence, that refusal to be intimidated by our displays of power. Most beings in the galaxy would have trembled in the presence of the Etherian delegation." "I was terrified," Marcus admitted with a laugh. "I just learned early in life not to show fear. On the frontier worlds, showing weakness can get you killed quickly." They remained on the balcony until the twin suns disappeared completely, and the city's night cycle began in earnest. The bioluminescent towers shifted to their evening colors, casting everything in soft blues and greens. Above them, the orbital platforms became visible as points of light moving slowly across the star-filled sky. Later that evening, as they prepared for sleep in their shared chambers, Zara found herself thinking about Marcus's revelation regarding his Kytherian teachers. It explained much about his rapid rise from frontier pilot to trusted advisor. The Kytherians were an ancient species, their technological achievements rivaling even those of the Etherian Empire. For them to share their knowledge with a human showed remarkable trust. "Marcus," she said as he settled beside her in their sleeping alcove, "these Kytherian engineers who taught you, do you still maintain contact with them?" "No," he replied, his voice already growing drowsy. "They moved on after the border situation stabilized. Last I heard, they had returned to Kytherian space." Zara nodded, satisfied with the explanation. The Kytherians were a nomadic people by nature, rarely staying in one location for extended periods. It made perfect sense that they would have departed the Sigma Draconis system once their refugee status was no longer necessary. As she drifted towards sleep, her mind turned to tomorrow's council session. Marcus's presentation would likely revolutionize their cargo fleet operations, potentially saving the Empire massive resources while increasing efficiency across all trade routes. The implications were significant enough that several noble houses had already expressed interest in investing in the proposed modifications. She was proud of her partner's achievements and grateful that their bond had brought such innovation to the empire. The whispers about their unconventional relationship had long since been silenced by Marcus's proven value to the council and his obvious devotion to her personally. The last thing she remembered before sleep claimed her was the steady rhythm of Marcus's breathing beside her and the warm pressure of his hand resting on her arm. Whatever challenges tomorrow's presentation might bring, they would face them together as they had faced everything else in their 3 years of partnership. In the morning, she would wake early to review the technical specifications Marcus had prepared, ensuring that she could answer any questions the council members might raise about the proposed modifications. As one of the few nobles with advanced training in engineering principles, her support would be crucial in gaining approval for his ambitious plans. But, for now, Lady Zarathel of the 12th House of Luminance was simply Zara, contentedly asleep beside the human who had somehow captured her heart and changed her understanding of what was possible when two very different beings chose to trust each other completely. The twin moons of Lemethus rose high above the palace, their silver light streaming through the crystal windows to illuminate the peaceful scene of an unlikely love that had already begun to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy, though neither partner yet understood the true magnitude of the changes that were coming. The council chamber hummed with barely contained energy as Marcus concluded his presentation. Lady Zarathel watched from her designated noble seat as the 12 high counselors processed the technical specifications he had just outlined. Their crystalline displays showed efficiency projections that bordered on the impossible, yet Marcus's previous successes made them difficult to dismiss. These modifications would require complete reconstruction of our primary cargo vessels, announced Councillor Veltar, his ancient voice carrying skepticism. The resource expenditure would be enormous. Marcus stepped forward confidently, his human form dwarfed by the towering Etherian architecture, but commanding attention nonetheless. The initial investment would be substantial, honored Counselor, but the long-term savings would exceed costs within 18 months. Furthermore, the enhanced shielding systems would provide superior protection during passage through the disputed territories. Zara felt a surge of pride watching Marcus handle the council's questions with such composure. Even the most traditional members had learned to respect his insights over the past 3 years. His proposal to integrate advanced power coupling systems with their existing fleet architecture was brilliant, showing a deep understanding of both human innovation and Etherian technological principles. The shielding specifications are particularly intriguing, noted Counselor Nethera, her silver eyes reviewing the data streams. These frequency modulations are unlike anything in our current databases. Where precisely did you develop these techniques? Marcus paused for just a fraction of a second, but Zara caught it. As I mentioned yesterday to Lady Zarathel, I learned these principles during my time in the Outer Rim territories from Kytherian refugees. Their mastery of defensive systems is well documented. Counselor Veltar's expression sharpened. We have extensive records of Kytherian defensive technologies from our previous diplomatic exchanges. These specifications show significant variations from their documented capabilities. Zara felt a small chill run through her chest. She had reviewed the technical data that morning and noticed the same discrepancies, but had assumed they represented improvements Marcus had made to the basic Kytherian designs. Now, under the council's scrutiny, the differences appeared more significant. Innovation often requires adaptation, Marcus replied smoothly. The refugees I worked with were experimenting with hybrid approaches, combining traditional Kytherian methods with technologies they had encountered during their travels. The explanation sounded reasonable, but something in Marcus's posture had shifted. Zara's enhanced perception, trained through years of noble education, detected subtle signs of stress that would be invisible to most beings. His breathing had become more controlled, his stance slightly more rigid. Counselor Nithara manipulated her data display, comparing Marcus's specifications against the Council's archives. These frequency signatures are fascinating. They show remarkable similarity to technologies we encountered during the recent border conflicts, but not from Kytherian sources. What sources? Asked Counselor Veltar, his attention now fully focused on the technical analysis. Vorgan engineering principles, Nethera replied, her voice carrying new interest. Specifically, the advanced shielding systems used by their deep space exploration vessels. The mention of the Vorgan collective sent ripples of tension through the council chamber. The Vorgans were a mysterious species that inhabited the galaxy's outer regions, rarely making contact with other civilizations. Their technology was reported to be extraordinarily advanced, but few beings had ever seen it firsthand. Zara watched Marcus carefully as the discussion continued. His expression remained calm and professional, but she could sense something changing in his emotional resonance through their partial bond connection. The confidence and openness she was accustomed to feeling from him had been replaced by something more guarded. The Vorgans maintained strict isolation protocols, Counselor Veltar observed. Contact with their technology would be highly unusual for a human cargo pilot working in the Outer Rim territories. Perhaps these refugees had encountered Vorgan technology during their travels, Marcus suggested. The galaxy is vast, and many species have had chance encounters with various civilizations without formal diplomatic contact. The explanation was plausible, but Zara found herself studying Marcus with new attention. In 3 years of partnership, she had never known him to be evasive about anything. His straightforward honesty had been one of the qualities that first attracted her to him. Yet something about this discussion was making him uncomfortable in ways she had never seen before. Council leader, interrupted a new voice from the chamber's entrance. We have received an urgent transmission that may be relevant to this discussion. All eyes turned to Communications Director Fendal as she approached the central platform. Her expression carried the gravity reserved for significant developments, causing immediate attention from the assembled counselors. What transmission? Demanded Veltar. A message from the Kytherian Trade Commission, Fendal replied, her melodic voice carrying across the chamber. They are requesting clarification regarding claims that their technological secrets have been shared with human representatives. The silence that followed was profound. Zara felt her chest tighten as she realized the implications. If the Kytherians were denying having taught their techniques to Marcus, then his explanation for his advanced knowledge was false. Marcus remained perfectly still, his face showing no emotion, but Zara could sense the change in his internal state through their bond. Whatever he was feeling now was carefully controlled, almost mechanically suppressed in ways that seemed impossible for natural human emotional responses. Perhaps there has been some misunderstanding, Marcus said calmly. Communication across species barriers often results in confusion about specific details. Counselor Nethera activated her data interface, sending streams of information across the chamber's displays. The Kytherian message is quite specific. They state categorically that no refugee populations in the Sigma Draconis system have had contact with human representatives in the past 5 years. Zara's noble training kept her expression neutral, but internally she felt as though the chamber floor was shifting beneath her feet. Marcus had lied to her, not just to the council, but directly to her in their private chambers when she had asked about his teachers. Furthermore, Nethera continued, they express significant concern that their technological signatures are being claimed without authorization. They are requesting immediate clarification of how these specifications were obtained. Marcus stepped forward, his movements still controlled and confident despite the mounting evidence against his story. I understand their concern. Perhaps I was mistaken about the specific source of some techniques. When working with multiple technological principles over several years, the origins can become confused in memory. The excuse was weak, and everyone in the chamber knew it. The technical specifications Marcus had provided were far too detailed and specific to be the result of confused memories. Moreover, his confident presentation had shown intimate familiarity with every aspect of the proposed modifications. Counselor Veltar's ancient eyes fixed on Marcus with newfound intensity. Commander Chun, these technologies you have presented show mastery that would require years of direct training and hands-on experience. Confused memories do not account for such detailed knowledge. Perhaps, Marcus replied, but human memory can be unreliable, especially when dealing with complex technical information gathered over extended periods in stressful circumstances. Zara found herself studying her partner as though seeing him clearly for the first time. The Marcus she thought she knew would never respond to direct questioning with such careful deflection. The man she had fallen in love with was passionate, direct, and incapable of sustained deception. Yet the being standing before the council was demonstrating skills in misdirection that seemed almost professional. Council leader Findal interjected, "There is more." The Kytherian message includes detailed technical analyses of the specifications provided in Commander Chen's proposal. Their engineers have concluded that these designs incorporate technologies unknown to their civilization. The chamber erupted in whispered conversations between the counselors. Unknown technologies presented as Kytherian innovations suggested something far more serious than simple misattribution. Either Marcus had somehow gained access to classified technologies from an unknown source, or he possessed knowledge that he had deliberately concealed. Moreover, Findal continued, the Kytherians have forwarded our inquiry to the Vorgan Collective through their limited communication channels. If these specifications are indeed based on Vorgan technology, the implications could be significant for our diplomatic relationships. Zara felt cold spreading through her chest as the full scope of the situation became clear. Marcus had not simply lied about learning techniques from Kytherian refugees. He had access to advanced technologies from sources he was actively concealing from both her and the Council. The question was no longer where he had learned these techniques, but why he was hiding their true origin. Marcus maintained his composure throughout the expanding investigation, but Zara could sense that his emotional control was becoming more artificial with each passing moment. Through their bond, she felt something that chilled her more than his deceptions. Whatever he was hiding was enormous, and he had been actively managing his emotional responses to prevent her from sensing it. Commander Chun, Veltar said formally, in light of these new developments, the Council requires complete disclosure of how you obtain these technological specifications. The implications for our security and diplomatic relationships are too significant to accept incomplete explanations. For the first time since the questioning began, Marcus hesitated. Zara watched as something shifted in his expression, a calculation taking place behind his eyes that she had never seen before. When he finally responded, his voice carried a different quality entirely. Honored counselors, Marcus said, his tone becoming more formal, I require time to consult my personal records and provide you with complete information. Some of the technical knowledge in question was obtained under circumstances that involve confidential agreements. I need to determine what information I can legally share without violating previous commitments. The response was professional and diplomatic, but it confirmed Zara's worst fears. Marcus possessed detailed knowledge of advanced technologies obtained through secret channels, and he had been concealing this from everyone, including her. Very well, Veltar replied after consulting with his fellow counselors. You have until tomorrow morning to prepare a complete disclosure. Until that time, this council session is suspended. As the counselors filed out of the chamber, Zara remained in her seat, watching Marcus as he gathered his presentation materials. Her partner of 3 years, the man she had trusted completely, had revealed himself to be far more complex and secretive than she had ever imagined. When Marcus finally looked up at her, his expression was apologetic but also wary. Through their bond, she could sense that he was now actively working to shield his thoughts and emotions from her perception. The openness that had defined their relationship was gone, replaced by careful barriers that felt as foreign as they were frightening. Zara, He began, moving toward her seat. "Not here," she replied quietly, her noble training keeping her voice steady despite the turmoil in her chest. "We will discuss this privately." Marcus nodded and followed her from the chamber in silence. As they walked through the palace corridors toward their private quarters, Zara found herself questioning everything she thought she knew about the man beside her. How much of their relationship had been built on carefully constructed lies? What other secrets was he hiding? And, most importantly, what was he really doing on her world? The answers, she realized with growing dread, might be far more dangerous than she was prepared to discover. The silence in their private chambers felt suffocating as Zarathel activated the security barriers that would prevent any surveillance of their conversation. Marcus stood near the observation balcony, where they had shared intimate moments just the night before, but now the distance between them felt like a vast gulf. 3 years, Zara said quietly, her voice carrying the controlled calm of noble training. 3 years of partnership, of sharing thoughts and feelings through our bond, of planning a future together. And you have been lying to me the entire time. Marcus turned to face her, his expression showing more genuine emotion than he had displayed during the council session. Not lying. Concealing, yes, but not about my feelings for you. Everything between us has been real. How can I believe that when I now know you possess technologies that you deliberately hid from me? When you can shield your emotions so completely that I never sense your deception? Zara moved closer to him, her violet eyes searching his face for truth she was no longer certain she could recognize. Were you, Marcus? Because you're clearly not the simple cargo pilot you pretended to be. Marcus was quiet for several moments, his internal struggle visible in the tension around his eyes. Finally, he reached into his jacket and withdrew a small device that Zara had never seen before. Its design was unlike anything in Etherian or human technology databases, constructed from materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "My name is Marcus Chun," he began, his voice taking on a different cadence. "But I'm not from Terra Nova, and I was never a cargo pilot. I am a deep reconnaissance agent for the Terran Strategic Intelligence Directorate." The revelation hit Zara like a physical blow. The Terran Strategic Intelligence Directorate was Earth's most secretive organization, responsible for gathering information about advanced civilizations throughout the galaxy. Its very existence was officially denied by human governments, though rumors of its activities had circulated for decades. "You are a spy," she said, the words feeling strange in her mouth. "I am an intelligence operative," Marcus corrected. "My mission was to establish contact with the Etherian ruling class and assess their technological capabilities and political stability." Zara felt the foundations of her world shifting beneath her feet. "And our relationship, our bond, was that part of your mission as well?" "No." Marcus's response came immediately, carrying more genuine emotion than she had heard from him all day. "My orders were to establish contact and gather information. Falling in love with you was never part of the plan. It complicated everything." Despite her training, Zara found herself wanting to believe him. The love she felt through their bond had seemed too real to be fabricated, too deep to be merely an act. But if he could conceal advanced technologies and his true identity for 3 years, how could she trust her perception of his feelings? "The technologies you presented today," she said, forcing herself to focus on the larger implications. "Where did you really obtain them?" Marcus activated the device in his hand, and suddenly the air around them shimmered. Zara gasped as she realized what she was seeing. Advanced holographic projection systems materialized in the space between them, displaying technical specifications that made his council presentation look primitive by comparison. "These are human technologies," Marcus said quietly, "developed by Earth's most classified research programs over the past 50 years. The specifications I presented today represent only the most basic applications of principles that humanity has been perfecting in secret." Zara stared at the holographic displays in shock. The technological capabilities they represented were centuries ahead of what the galaxy believed humanity had achieved. If these specifications were accurate, human civilization was far more advanced than even the Etherian Empire suspected. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Human technology is primitive compared to Etherian capabilities. Your species only achieved faster-than-light travel within the past century." "That is what we wanted the galaxy to believe," Marcus replied. "Humanity learned early that appearing weak and primitive provided significant advantages. While other species dismissed us as insignificant, we developed technologies in secret that now surpass most galactic civilizations." The implications began cascading through Zara's mind. If humanity possessed such advanced capabilities while maintaining the pretense of being a minor frontier species, their strategic position in the galaxy was completely different from what anyone understood. The trade agreements, the diplomatic relationships, even the border conflicts with other species would all be based on fundamentally false assumptions about human capabilities. "How many others?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How many other intelligence operatives are embedded in positions of influence throughout the galaxy?" Marcus hesitated before answering. "I cannot provide specific numbers, but yes, there are others. The Intelligence Directorate has been placing agents in key positions for decades. The information gathered has been crucial for humanity's survival strategies." Zara felt sick as the full scope of the deception became clear. "The cargo fleet modifications you proposed would give humanity detailed intelligence about Etherian military logistics and defense capabilities. Among other things," Marcus admitted, "though the efficiency improvements I promised are real. Humanity has no interest in weakening the Etherian Empire. Our analysis suggests that cooperation serves both species better than conflict." "Cooperation built on lies and deception," Zara said, her noble pride finally breaking through her shock. "You have spent 3 years infiltrating our government, stealing our secrets, and manipulating our relationship for intelligence purposes." "No." Marcus stepped toward her, his hands raised peacefully. "The intelligence gathering was my mission, yes. But everything between us personally has been real. I broke protocol by allowing our relationship to develop beyond what was strategically necessary. My handlers were not pleased when I reported our bonding ceremony." Zara backed away from him, her mind racing through memories of their time together with new understanding. "The technology demonstrations you provided to the Council, the innovations that saved billions of credits, they were all designed to gain access to classified information about our Empire's capabilities." "Initially, yes," Marcus said honestly. "But over time, my motivations changed. I genuinely wanted to help improve Etherian logistics and defense systems. My recommendations have strengthened your Empire's position relative to other galactic powers." "Because a strong Etherian Empire serves humanity's interests," Zara replied bitterly. "Because I care about your people. Because I care about you." Marcus activated another function on his device, and the holographic displays changed to show something unexpected. "These are the intelligence reports I have been sending to Earth about Etherian capabilities and intentions." Zara studied the documents with growing confusion. Rather than detailed military intelligence or technological secrets, the reports contained mostly political analysis and cultural observations. More importantly, they consistently portrayed the Etherian Empire as a stable and beneficial force in galactic politics. "I have been recommending increased cooperation and open diplomatic relations," Marcus continued. "My reports consistently argue that humanity's long-term interests are best served by establishing genuine partnership with the Etherian Empire rather than continuing covert intelligence operations." The revelation added another layer of complexity to an already impossible situation. Marcus had been assigned to spy on our civilization, but his reports actually advocated for ending the deception and establishing honest relationships. "Why?" Zara asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Because I fell in love with an Etherian noblewoman who showed me that cooperation based on mutual respect produces better outcomes than manipulation based on fear, Marcus said simply. Because 3 years of living among your people convinced me that humanity's secrecy was ultimately self-defeating. Zara wanted to believe him. Every instinct told her that the emotion in his voice was genuine, that his feelings for her had indeed changed his fundamental approach to his mission. But the scope of his deception made it difficult to trust any aspect of their relationship. "There is something else," Marcus said, his voice taking on a tone of urgency. "Something that makes this situation far more critical than simple intelligence gathering." He manipulated his device again, and the holographic displays shifted to show star charts with movement patterns that made Zara's blood run cold. Ships moving in formations that suggested military operations on a massive scale. "The Krell hegemony has been massing forces in the outer spiral territory for the past 6 months, Marcus said. "Our deep space monitoring stations detected the buildup 3 weeks ago. Their target appears to be the Etherian border worlds." Zara stared at the tactical displays in horror. The Krell hegemony was a militant species known for their aggressive expansion policies. An attack on Etherian territory would trigger a galactic war that could devastate multiple civilizations. This intelligence has not been shared through normal diplomatic channels because humanity's monitoring capabilities are classified, Marcus continued. But the attack is projected to begin within 2 weeks. The Etherian Empire needs to know. The strategic implications hit Zara immediately. If the intelligence was accurate, her empire was facing an imminent threat that they were completely unaware of. But acting on information provided by a human spy would expose the fact that humanity possessed advanced surveillance capabilities. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because the woman I love is going to be in danger, and I cannot stand by and watch her civilization be destroyed by an attack they never saw coming," Marcus replied. "Because 3 years of partnership has convinced me that some things are more important than maintaining operational security." Zara found herself faced with an impossible choice. Trust the man who had deceived her about everything fundamental in their relationship, or ignore intelligence that could save millions of lives. Her noble training demanded that she protect her people, but her personal pain made it difficult to accept anything Marcus told her. "If I bring this intelligence